The Galactic Council chamber stretched endlessly, a vast dome filled with delegates from hundreds of alien species, each watching, whispering, judging as Earth's representatives prepared to face accusations that could change the balance of the galaxy forever, and Commander Arya stood tall at the human podium, her uniform crisp, her eyes calm but piercing, knowing that every gesture, every word, would be scrutinized by species who had already decided humans were guilty, and the accusation was clear. Earth defense programs were responsible for mass civilian casualties in distant star systems, a crime against the galaxy, and millions were watching across communication networks, expecting a spectacle, expecting fear, expecting weakness, yet Arya's mind was steady, trained for years in diplomacy, strategy, and truth, because humans had done no wrong, humans had defended their homes, defended innocent lives, and now they had to prove it to a galaxy that had assumed the worst, and the chamber hummed with tension as Arya cleared her throat, all eyes turning toward her, cameras focusing on her face, holographic screens projecting every detail of her presence across countless systems, and she began, her voice calm but firm, explaining the situation, the reality of human defense protocols, the ethics that guided them, and she immediately noticed the murmurs, the alien delegates whispering among themselves, some shaking their heads, some scoffing, some leaning forward in curiosity, because humans had a reputation for unpredictability, for aggression, for being a species that would fight without mercy, yet they had not expected the clarity, the composure, the calm authority with which Arya presented herself, and she continued, showing initial footage of star systems where humans had been attacked, star systems far from Earth where alien forces had initiated conflicts, using humans as a convenient target for political games, and she explained every action taken, emphasizing that humans had responded, not attacked, had defended, not conquered, had calculated every strike to minimize civilian casualties, and some delegates stiffened, others leaned back, realizing that this was not a reckless species, not a violent species, but one that valued strategy, precision, and above all, ethics, and then an alien delegate interrupted, a tall insectoid being with multiple eyes, its voice harsh and buzzing as it demanded proof that humans had not acted aggressively. And Arya smiled slightly, not out of arrogance, but because she had expected this, she had prepared for every possible objection, and she immediately summoned holographic star maps, communications intercepts, and footage showing ambushes where humans were the victims, entire fleets of alien forces caught trying to trap Earth colonies, while humans evacuated civilians, warned star systems, and countered only to protect themselves. And as the images and data appeared in the chamber, gasps and murmurs spread, some species whispering among themselves that humans were far more disciplined than any record had indicated, that their defense program was precise, controlled, and ethical, and yet one group of reptilian delegates argued, claiming that humans had caused civilian harm during strikes, that their actions were reckless, and Arya nodded, acknowledging the concern, but quickly revealed intercepted communications showing that those incidents had been manipulated, evidence planted. And the real attacks had come from rogue alien factions attempting to frame Earth for political gain, and the chamber went silent, the tension so thick it could almost be felt physically, because the humans were exposing deception, manipulation, and the truth at the same time, revealing that their restraint and careful planning had prevented a galaxy-wide escalation, and Arya continued calmly, her voice unwavering as she described human ethics, the importance of civilian life, and the lengths to which Earth defense went to ensure that only those who attacked humans were targeted, avoiding unnecessary harm, a concept alien species struggled to grasp because most relied on overwhelming force, indiscriminate attacks, and brutal punishment. Yet here stood humans, disciplined, controlled, and morally precise, and the alien delegates began whispering, some nodding in understanding, some shaking their heads in disbelief, realizing that the humans they had assumed reckless were in fact more careful and ethical than many older empires. And as Arya presented further evidence, star charts, battle recordings, and intercepted communications, she emphasized one point clearly. Humans had never sought war, humans had only defended, and any casualties were either unavoidable defensive results or the deliberate deception of those who wanted to accuse Earth, and the chamber, once buzzing with expectation of fear, spectacle, and human panic, was now tense with suspense, curiosity, and dawning respect, every species watching, wondering how humans could be so controlled, so prepared, so ethical in the face of accusations that would have ruined almost any other species. And as Arya paused for a moment, letting the chamber absorb the information, the cameras capturing every expression, the alien delegates leaning forward, whispering, calculating, Arya knew the first phase was over, the hook of disbelief and attention secured. The galaxy now waiting for her next move, waiting for the deeper revelations, and the suspense was complete because no one had yet seen the full truth, the hidden strategies, the secret operations, and the real story of the Earth defense program that humans were about to reveal, and she knew that if she played this correctly, every eye in the galaxy would stay fixed on her, every mind captivated, every judgment forced to reconsider, and the first part of her testimony The opening statement of humans defending themselves against false accusations had already begun, drawing the Council and the galaxy into the story, the suspense building, the attention locked, and the real revelations, the true ethical power and intelligence of humanity, had not yet even begun. Commander Aria's calm presence filled the chamber as the alien delegates turned their attention to the evidence she was presenting, holographic star maps rotating slowly in the air, showing distant colonies, destroyed ships, and complex battle routes where humans had been forced to defend, and she began explaining the sequence of attacks, pointing to the first ambushes, the calculated strikes that saved civilian lives, the evacuation efforts that had allowed thousands to escape, and the delegates whispered among themselves, some skeptical, some surprised, because no species they had known had shown such precision, such care, and yet one of the reptilian councillors slammed a clawed hand on the table, demanding that Aria explain why some systems had still experienced damage, why some ships had been destroyed, and Aria's eyes met the councillor's, steady and unflinching, as she replied that in war, even defensive action carries risk, but the humans had gone to extraordinary lengths to prevent it, highlighting recorded transmissions where humans warned enemy ships to retreat, where evacuation protocols were enacted, and even intercepted enemy messages revealed that alien forces deliberately concealed civilians to make it appear humans had attacked innocents, and murmurs spread across the chamber, some delegates shaking their heads in disbelief, struggling to accept that humans could fight wars so ethically. And Aria pressed further, displaying communications she had obtained secretly from rogue factions, showing them plotting to blame humans, falsifying evidence, and the chamber fell silent as every delegate realized they were witnessing the unveiling of a deliberate deception, a conspiracy that could have justified war against Earth unfairly. And then she played video recordings from the colonies, humans running through burning corridors, guiding civilians to safety, shielding schools and hospitals, using precise strikes to neutralize enemy forces without harming the innocent, and the room was captivated, delegates leaning forward, their multiple eyes wide, antennae twitching, and whispers of astonishment replaced the earlier murmurs of judgment. Yet some council members remained unconvinced, arguing that no species could be so restrained, no military could avoid mistakes entirely, and Aria nodded knowingly, understanding their doubt, because humans were not perfect, and she was honest, stating that isolated casualties had occurred but were unavoidable in defensive engagements, and every single instance had been analyzed, corrected, and had never been intentional. And then she revealed the intercepted alien communications in real time, holographic messages appearing in the air, showing alien commanders celebrating their efforts to frame humans, plotting to fabricate reports, and the room erupted with shock and whispers, realizing that the humans had been framed, that the accusations of war crimes were entirely misleading, and Aria's calm voice carried over the chamber again, explaining how Earth defense had responded, how humans had acted ethically, strategically, and carefully, even when provoked by deception, and the suspense built as she revealed detailed star maps showing the precise sequence of defensive strikes, the evacuation corridors, the non-lethal neutralizations of enemy forces, every move documented to prove human restraint and intelligence, and the chamber's tension shifted from suspicion to awe, as delegates who had assumed humans were reckless began to realize the truth, that humans were disciplined, prepared, and ethical, and then a communication alert appeared in the council system, a delegate trying to interrupt, accusing humans of exaggerating, yet Aria anticipated it, her hand sweeping a motion, revealing further evidence, holograms showing real-time warnings humans had issued, civilians being evacuated, and enemy forces being restrained from harming innocents, and the room fell silent once more, the suspense reaching its peak, because the galaxy was finally seeing humans not as chaotic warriors, not as aggressive conquerors, but as disciplined defenders who had used intelligence, ethics, and patience to counter deception, protect lives, and preserve order. And some alien delegates began whispering to one another, some looking surprised, some nodding, realizing that their assumptions had been wrong. And Aria paused, letting the gravity of her evidence sink in, letting the council feel the tension of the truth, the suspense of revelation, and the shock of being deceived by factions within their own ranks. And as she continued, explaining human decision-making, the council realized the magnitude of what had happened, the sophistication of Earth defense, and the calculated, careful, restrained approach humans had taken to ensure the least harm. And finally, she concluded, her voice calm, firm, and unwavering. We acted to defend, we acted to protect, we acted with ethics, and the casualties you see were never caused by negligence, but by those who sought to manipulate, deceive, and accuse. Humans are not the criminals you think, we are defenders of peace. And as the last words echoed in the chamber, the tension became unbearable, the whispers turned to stunned silence, and every species, every delegate, every observer watching across the galaxy understood that humans had just proven their innocence with evidence, ethics, and undeniable strategy. Yet the suspense remained because the Council had not yet passed judgment. And while humans had proven the truth, would the galaxy finally acknowledge it, or would politics and pride overshadow reality? And every eye in the chamber stayed fixed on Commander Arya, the calm face of a species misunderstood, underestimated, yet capable of demonstrating control, ethics, and intelligence the galaxy had never before witnessed. Commander Arya knew the Council was watching every move, every gesture, every word, and now it was time to show the deeper truth, the hidden strategies humans had employed in the Earth defense program. Because proving innocence was not enough, she needed to reveal the intelligence, patience, and restraint behind every action, and she began by projecting star maps across the chamber, showing multiple systems where humans had been attacked, paths of alien fleets moving toward human colonies, and the ways humans had anticipated each ambush. Setting up defensive maneuvers that minimized risk to civilians, the Council gasped as they saw the precision, the timing, the foresight, because no other species they knew could plan with such care. And then Arya highlighted communications between Earth defense officers, recorded in real time during the attacks, showing decisions made in seconds to protect thousands of lives, ships moving into shielded corridors, warning signals sent across space, civilians evacuated, and every offensive action strictly targeted at attacking forces, and the chamber whispered with disbelief, some delegates shaking their heads, some leaning closer to watch the details, because humans were showing not just innocence, but intelligence and morality that surpassed expectation. Yet one alien delegate, a tall bipedal with green-scaled skin, hissed, claiming humans could not avoid harm completely, that any destruction proved recklessness. And Arya calmly nodded, acknowledging human limitations in war. But then revealed the intercepted communications of rogue alien commanders orchestrating the attacks to make humans appear guilty, deliberately placing civilians in harm's way to fabricate evidence, and the chamber froze, whispers dying instantly as every delegate realized that humans had been victims of deception, carefully outmaneuvered in every accusation, yet restrained and ethical in every response. And then she displayed further footage, showing humans neutralizing enemy ships with precision strikes that avoided civilian areas, evacuating planets under attack, deploying non-lethal weapons that disabled fleets without killing, and as the chamber watched, the whispers of disbelief turned into stunned silence, because they had never imagined a species capable of balancing lethal efficiency with moral responsibility in this way. And Arya continued, showing strategic simulations, projections of potential outcomes if humans had acted aggressively, highlighting that any offensive retaliation would have caused far more casualties, but humans had chosen defense, restraint, and patience, and the Council stared, unable to deny the evidence, unable to ignore the intelligence and ethics displayed. Yet one faction of alien delegates argued that humans still deserved punishment, insisting that mistakes occurred and someone must be accountable, and Arya's voice remained calm but firm, explaining that Earth had taken every measure to prevent mistakes, that no action was taken recklessly, and that punishing humans would reward those who had attempted deception, undermining peace and justice across the galaxy. And then she revealed the most shocking evidence. Intercepted plans showing that the rogue alien factions intended to expand the war, destabilize multiple regions, and blame Earth as the aggressor, yet humans had foiled those plans, protecting systems that had not even contacted Earth, preventing wider destruction, saving countless lives. And the Council gasped, whispers turning to murmurs of awe, realizing that humans had not only defended themselves but also acted as guardians of multiple civilizations. And some delegates looked at each other, stunned, realizing they had misjudged humans entirely, that the criminals they accused were in fact heroes who had prevented a galaxy-wide disaster. And Arya paused, letting the weight of the revelation sink in, letting the chamber feel the suspense, the shock, the understanding of what humans had done. And then she concluded, her voice calm, deliberate, and commanding, "We did not commit war crimes. We defended, we protected, and we acted ethically. Every casualty that occurred was manipulated by those who wanted to deceive you. Humans are not your enemy. Humans are guardians of peace." And as the last words echoed, the chamber erupted in reactions, some delegates whispering in disbelief, some openly nodding, some stunned into silence, because the story they had believed was turned upside down. The humans they had underestimated were more disciplined, more ethical, more intelligent than any species in the Council had ever witnessed, and cameras captured every reaction for the galaxy to see. The suspense palpable, because while the evidence had been presented, the Council had yet to decide, and every species was now forced to reconsider, forced to acknowledge that humans were not reckless warriors, but a species that had mastered strategy, ethics, and control in warfare. And the whispers across the chamber, across systems, across the galaxy, carried the shock of realization, the awe of respect, and the suspense of what would come next. Because humans had not only defended themselves but had shown the galaxy that intelligence and morality could triumph over deception and accusation. And Commander Arya remained calm, poised, aware that this revelation was only the beginning, that the next steps would determine whether the galaxy truly understood the strength, ethics, and intelligence of humanity. and that her testimony had already turned doubt into suspense, suspicion into shock, and disbelief into cautious respect. Commander Arya stood in the center of the vast Galactic Council chamber, the evidence she had presented still floating in the air like shimmering holograms, star maps and battle footage displaying humans acting with restraint, evacuating civilians, targeting only enemy ships, and yet some alien delegates remained skeptical, whispering to each other, doubting that a species could act with such precision and morality in war. And Arya began her next point, her voice calm but firm, echoing clearly across the chamber, explaining human values, the philosophy behind Earth defense, how every action was guided by ethics, by rules that prioritized life over destruction, and she highlighted the contrast with the attacking alien factions, showing footage of reckless strikes on civilian habitats, ships firing indiscriminately, systems destroyed for political advantage, while humans had only acted to defend, to protect, to prevent escalation, and the whispers began to shift, some delegates frowning in thought, realizing that humans were not like other species, that morality and strategy could coexist even in war, yet a faction of reptilian delegates hissed, insisting that any mistake counted as a crime, that humans had indirectly caused casualties and therefore must be punished, and Arya responded with calm authority, acknowledging the reality that war can never be perfect, but emphasizing that intent, ethics, and preparation must weigh more than mere outcomes, pointing out that Earth defense had taken extraordinary steps to ensure no unnecessary casualties, that humans had developed evacuation protocols, warning systems, and non-lethal defenses, and the chamber became tense as delegates murmured, some impressed, some unconvinced, while Arya continued, explaining that punishing humans would reward deception, empower those who had manipulated evidence, destabilize galactic trust. And the suspense in the room grew, because her words carried weight, showing that humans were not only innocent but strategically wise, capable of shaping outcomes not with brute force but with moral clarity, and she illustrated with examples of human strikes that saved entire colonies from attacks, coordinated rescues across light years, and interventions that neutralized threats without causing harm to innocents, and some council members began to whisper among themselves, realizing that human ethics were not just talk, that humans had proven morality under pressure, yet a group of alien delegates, worried about precedent, demanded strict penalties, arguing that even defensive actions could not be fully free of harm, and Arya's eyes scanned the chamber, calm, unwavering, as she replied, "Every species makes errors, but humans are judged by intention and ethics. We acted to protect life, not destroy. To punish humans would be to reward deception and endanger the galaxy," and her words carried across the chamber, causing silence to fall, delegates absorbing the meaning, the weight of justice, the power of morality, and then she added, emphasizing strategy and ethics combined, "Our defense program was designed to prevent war from spreading, to prevent escalation, to protect civilians everywhere, not just humans. We chose patience, control, and precision over aggression and destruction, and that is the measure of our actions." And the council gasped as they viewed more holograms, showing humans coordinating evacuations, warning enemy ships of civilian presence, and neutralizing threats with minimal force, their decisions calculated, ethical, and effective, and some delegates whispered, "They are more disciplined than any empire we know." While others frowned, struggling with the idea that a species they had underestimated could act with such clarity, efficiency, and morality, and the suspense in the room reached its peak, because humans had not only defended themselves, but were now presenting an ethical standard that challenged centuries of galactic assumptions, that questioned whether raw power alone justified judgment, and the whispers became discussions, heated but respectful. As some delegates argued that humans should be respected, others still hesitant, but all now forced to confront the evidence of intelligence and ethics, and Arya remained calm, her gaze steady on the chamber, knowing that her ethical argument was the turning point, that she had shifted perception from suspicion to awe, from doubt to consideration, from accusation to cautious respect, and she concluded, letting the weight sink in, "Humans are not your enemies. We are defenders, not conquerors. Ethics, strategy, and restraint are our strength. Punishing us for defending life would only serve chaos. We acted with honor, and that is the truth." And as the last words echoed in the chamber, silence took over, the suspense thick, the council forced to consider the reality, to weigh justice against deception, to understand that humans had proven morality, intelligence, and restraint in the face of false accusations, and the galaxy watched, captivated, as Commander Arya had transformed suspicion into reflection, fear into understanding, and accusation into awe, holding every eye, every mind, every thought on the truth of humanity, ready for the next revelation. Commander Arya took a deep breath and gestured to the holographic display, which now expanded across the chamber, showing intercepted communications, secret orders, and manipulated reports that had been used to frame humans for crimes they did not commit, and the delegates leaned forward, their eyes wide, sensors blinking, multiple species whispering, struggling to process what they were seeing, because the evidence was clear. Humans had been the victims of deception, targeted by rogue factions. Seeking political advantage, and Arya's voice carried across the chamber, calm but cutting, as she began explaining, these are not mistakes. These are deliberate attempts to create a false narrative, to accuse humans of war crimes, to distract the galaxy from the true culprits, and she highlighted messages where alien commanders discussed hiding civilians in strike zones, falsifying damage reports, and creating false casualty numbers to make Earth appear guilty, and the Council gasped, some delegates murmuring in disbelief, realizing that humans had been accused unfairly, manipulated by the very systems claiming justice. And then Arya showed real-time battle footage, humans coordinating strikes with surgical precision, evacuating entire cities, warning enemy forces to retreat, and neutralizing threats while avoiding civilian casualties. And the chamber was silent, delegates frozen, astonished that a species they had assumed reckless and violent had acted with such morality, intelligence, and strategy. And then she revealed the most shocking part: holographic reconstructions of enemy plans demonstrating that if humans had not intervened, the rogue factions would have caused a galaxy-wide escalation, destroying entire colonies, destabilizing governments, and spreading chaos. Yet humans had stopped the attacks, saved countless lives, and prevented war. And whispers spread through the chamber as delegates began to murmur, some nodding in understanding, some shocked by the scale of the deception, some visibly angry that they had believed false evidence. And one insectoid delegate rose, tentacles twitching, demanding that Arya explain why there were still some casualties, why humans had not eliminated all threats. And Arya calmly responded, no species can prevent all harm in war. But we acted to minimize it, to protect as many as possible, and to preserve peace. Any casualties were caused by the manipulations of those who sought to frame us, and she highlighted simulations showing alternative scenarios, where aggressive retaliation would have caused far more destruction, proving that humans had chosen restraint and strategy. And the chamber watched in stunned silence, the suspense rising, because humans had just shown not only innocence, but intelligence and foresight that no one had anticipated. And the council members began whispering among themselves, realizing that the accusations had been entirely false, that humans had acted ethically, and that punishing them would have been a grave injustice. And then Arya projected detailed star charts, showing human defense operations across multiple star systems, illustrating how humans had coordinated rescues, blocked ambushes, and neutralized enemy forces without unnecessary loss of life. The chamber gasped again, some delegates whispering that humans were more disciplined than any empire they had known, others shaking their heads in disbelief. And then she played intercepted messages showing rogue factions celebrating their success in framing humans, plotting political moves, and hoping to spark conflict. And the council's silence became palpable, because the full extent of the deception, the manipulation, and the calculated framing of Earth was now clear. And Arya's voice cut through the chamber once more, calm and commanding. We are not criminals. We are defenders. The casualties you see were never our choice, never our fault. We acted to preserve life, to prevent chaos, to protect the galaxy from those who sought to manipulate it. And the delegates leaned back, some whispering to each other, some stunned, some realizing that humans had not only proven their innocence, but had prevented a disaster that could have engulfed entire systems. And the suspense remained, because while the evidence was undeniable, the council had yet to decide. And every species in the room, every observer across the galaxy, now understood that humans were not reckless warriors, but disciplined, ethical, and intelligent defenders, capable of strategy and moral decision-making that surpassed expectations. And whispers turned into discussions, debates, and urgent communications, as delegates realized they had misjudged humans, underestimated them, and now faced the truth that the accusations had been false. And Arya stood calm, composed, watching the reactions, knowing that she had shifted the council from suspicion to shock, from accusation to reflection, from doubt to respect, and that the suspense of the moment would hold the attention of the galaxy until the final verdict, because humans had revealed the full truth, the full scale of their ethical strategy. And the council had no choice but to acknowledge that the Earth defense program had acted with honor, precision, and moral clarity, and that the humans they had judged so harshly were in fact guardians, protectors, and a species the galaxy had underestimated at its own peril. Commander Arya straightened her shoulders, the chamber silent after the shocking evidence she had presented, every delegate now staring at her, whispers fading into tense attention, because the moment had arrived to deliver the final warning, to show not just innocence, but the full capability of humanity and the consequences of underestimating them. And she began, her voice calm but sharp, echoing across the vast hall. Humans do not seek war. We do not conquer. We defend. But let me make this very clear. If Earth or any innocent life is threatened, we will act decisively, ethically, and with full strength. And the delegates stiffened, sensing that her calm words carried real weight, because humans had already proven intelligence, ethics, and restraint. But now they were showing the power behind that restraint, the calculated force that could respond to aggression, and she gestured to a new projection, showing the full Earth defense fleet, hidden ships in orbit, strategic positions, cloaked warships capable of precise strikes across multiple systems, advanced defense technologies, and tactical simulations that displayed humans outmaneuvering far larger fleets without unnecessary destruction, and the chamber fell into stunned silence, the suspense thick, every delegate realizing that humans were not only disciplined and ethical, but fully capable of overwhelming strength if provoked. And Arya continued, calmly, deliberately, we have defended against superior forces before, and we will do so again if necessary. The galaxy should understand that underestimating humans is the gravest mistake one can make. Ethics does not mean weakness. Strategy does not mean mercy will be misused. We protect life, and we protect peace, but those who threaten it will face consequences, and murmurs rippled through the council, some delegates exchanging nervous glances, some whispering about recalculating alliances, while others leaned forward, captivated, because humanity had now revealed that their restraint was not fear, but choice, a choice backed by unmatched capability. And then she revealed simulations of hypothetical attacks against rogue empires, showing precise human countermeasures neutralizing entire fleets without harming civilians, striking only at aggressors, and the chamber gasped, some whispering that no other species could execute such controlled and lethal precision, while others looked concerned, realizing that politics and pride could lead to catastrophic miscalculations if humans were underestimated, and Arya's gaze swept across the room, calm, composed, commanding respect without aggression, knowing that the suspense had reached its peak. Because the council had witnessed the evidence, the ethics, the strategies, and now the full warning of capability, and she spoke again, her voice unwavering, we do not seek conflict, but we are prepared for it. Any action against Earth or innocent systems will meet calculated, ethical retaliation. We hope it is not necessary. We hope for peace. But hope is not a strategy. Preparedness is, and the room was silent, the tension almost suffocating, delegates realizing that humans were not bluffing, that the calm commander before them was not just presenting a defense, but the power to enforce it with precision, strategy, and morality, and whispers spread about the consequences of misjudging humans, alliances were reconsidered, factions debated whether aggression was worth the risk, because the humans had demonstrated that restraint and ethics were their strength. Yet power was ready and lethal, and Arya continued, showing the projected results of previous conflicts where humans had successfully neutralized threats, prevented wider wars, and safeguarded lives across multiple systems, reinforcing that any attempt to punish or provoke Earth would lead to strategic consequences far beyond what rogue factions had attempted, and the suspense became almost unbearable. Because every delegate understood that humanity had shown morality, intelligence, and absolute readiness, all in one, and any misstep in judgment could trigger consequences. Yet humans would always act ethically, not impulsively, and then she paused, letting the gravity of her words sink in, letting every eye in the chamber, every camera across the galaxy, feel the weight of the warning, and she concluded, her voice calm but final, we seek peace. We act ethically. We defend relentlessly. And now, the galaxy knows, humanity is not weak, not reckless, not to be underestimated. Justice, strategy, and ethics guide us. Threaten that, and you will see the full measure of our defense, and as her words echoed through the chamber, the delegates whispered urgently, debates flared, some in awe, some in fear, realizing that the humans they had doubted were a species of unparalleled intelligence, ethics, and capability, and the suspense remained, hanging in the air, because while humanity had revealed restraint, intelligence, and moral clarity, they had also shown the galaxy that their full power was ready if needed, and the Council now had to decide whether to acknowledge truth, respect humanity, or risk the consequences of underestimating a species that had mastered defense, ethics, and strategic might unlike any other. The chamber was silent, every species watching, every camera transmitting live across the galaxy, the suspense thick as the Galactic Council prepared to deliver their verdict, and Commander Arya stood tall, calm, confident, her evidence, her ethics, her warnings already etched in the minds of everyone present, because humans had shown restraint, morality, intelligence, and capability in ways no species had expected. And the Council President, a massive crystalline being whose voice resonated like thunder, spoke slowly, each word deliberate. The Council has reviewed the evidence, the communications, the battle records, and the ethical arguments presented by Commander Arya and the humans. It is clear that Earth acted in defense, that no deliberate war crimes were committed, and that false evidence was manipulated by rogue factions, and whispers spread across the chamber, shock, relief, awe, and disbelief mixing in the air, delegates exchanging glances, some shaking heads in wonder, others nodding slowly, realizing that humanity had not only defended themselves but had done so with precision, ethics, and foresight. And Arya allowed herself a small, controlled smile, knowing that Justice had been served, yet the suspense was not entirely gone, because the galaxy had witnessed a species that was disciplined, capable, and ethical, but also fully prepared to respond with calculated force if threatened, and the President continued, the Council formally clears Earth and its defense programs of all accusations. Furthermore, humanity's actions have prevented wider conflict, protected countless lives, and demonstrated a standard of ethics and strategy that the galaxy should recognize and respect, and the chamber erupted in murmurs, some delegates applauding, some standing in acknowledgement, while others simply stared in astonishment, realizing that humans had changed the perception of their species forever, and then Arya spoke, addressing the Council and the galaxy watching through countless channels. Her voice calm, firm, yet inspiring, we did not seek recognition. We did not seek revenge. We acted to defend, to protect, and to prevent chaos. The truth has been revealed, and let this serve as a reminder. Humans act with ethics, intelligence, and strategy. We will defend life, but we will not be underestimated, and her words reverberated, not as a threat, but as a lesson, a demonstration of a species that combined morality with power, intelligence with restraint, and ethics with capability, and across the galaxy, news of the verdict spread like wildfire, governments, empires, and independent systems discussing, debating, and reconsidering everything they thought they knew about Earth, some sending diplomatic greetings, others cautiously offering alliances, tributes, or cooperation, because humans had proven themselves not only innocent but wise, capable, and formidable, and then footage from Earth defense ships was broadcast, showing the fleet in orbit, ships sleek and black, shields faintly glowing, formations precise, ready but calm, guardians of the planet, demonstrating that the capacity for action existed, but restraint was chosen. And in the distant reaches of the galaxy, alien leaders whispered among themselves, realizing that the humans they had underestimated, judged, or accused were now a species to be respected, feared in caution, and admired for intelligence and morality, and Arya looked at the holograms, at her fleet, at the chamber, knowing that humanity had earned more than just exoneration. They had earned a reputation, a legend, a standard that would endure, and the Council President concluded. Let it be recorded that Earth is cleared, its defense programs ethical, and its people guardians of peace. Let this verdict guide future relations with humanity, a species that has proven their honor and intelligence, and as the words echoed, Arya allowed herself to relax slightly, the tension dissipating, yet her mind remained vigilant, because the galaxy now knew humanity's strength, and every species would think twice before aggression, and the suspense that had gripped the chamber and the galaxy transformed into awe and respect. The story of Commander Arya and the humans spreading across star systems as a legend, teaching the lesson that ethics and intelligence could prevail even in war, and the humans returned to Earth, the fleet remaining in orbit, cloaked, ready, but calm, and the planet below continued its daily life unaware of the galaxy-wide recognition. Yet humanity now held a place in history, a standard of restraint, strategy, and morality unmatched, and across the galaxy. Species spoke in quiet tones of the humans who had faced false accusations, revealed the truth, demonstrated capability, and secured not just survival but respect, and as the stars twinkled above Earth, the legend of humans, ethical defenders of peace, guardians of life, and masters of strategy was written, forever remembered as the species that could not be underestimated, the ones who had changed the galaxy's understanding of war, ethics, and intelligence, and the story ended not with destruction or violence, but with respect, awe, and the undeniable proof that humanity, when faced with accusation and threat, could act with precision, morality, and decisive strength, leaving the galaxy in suspenseful admiration for generations to come.